Alright, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem Rachak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Excuse me. And also honor and salutations to those of you who are of the hopeful elect and are out there teaching the word of sincerity and truth. Really quick, I wanted to add another part to that the series I had going on, The Outward Man is Nothing. So this will be the third part of that. When I did the last one, I started thinking about all these scriptures that I was leaving out, because I didn't know the exact location of them. I didn't want to take too much time trying to find a scripture. But when you read in the book of Galatians, it speaks perfectly to what's going on right now, which is for some odd reason, people wanting to harp on the law, and try to justify themselves by the law. And I think what can be inserted in there as well is someone saying that the Lord Yahweh Shai never existed, or whatever the story is nowadays. And the reason why I say you can insert that is because, and I said this to Old Testament Israelites before, and some other shows I've done, which is, if you say that the Lord Yahweh Shai never existed, I would ask you, how do you go about how do you go about reconciling when you transgress one of the laws, statutes, and commandments? How do you go about fixing that? Matter of fact, I think that's how it's worded. Boom. This is James 2:10. It says, "For whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all." Right? And when you read in the law, right, there were certain things that you had to do to reconcile for breaking those laws. Right? You may have to sacrifice a turtle dove. Oh, excuse me. You may have to sacrifice a turtle dove, or a lamb, or a bullock, or what have you, right? There were certain things that you had to do in order to reconcile the breaking of the law you transgressed against, right? And I would ask you, what are you doing? What are you doing when you go off in one of the laws? Because I know in my heart that there's no way that you're keeping every law perfectly. And I'm sure because of the way some of these men behave themselves on camera, my summation is that they try to find loopholes in the law to say that it's okay to do certain things. For instance, right, in the case of this guy Sakari, we got on him about the ponytail thing, right? And I personally think you have the ponytail because girls like it, right? And you say you took the vow of a Nazarite, or what have you. But, the vow of a Nazarite is very particular, right? You either were a Nazarite from birth, right? Which I doubt you were. Like, I don't know for sure, but I highly doubt it, right? Or you were a Nazarite for a certain dispensation of time, and then after the vow was over, you cut your hair, right? And so you found a loophole, right, or a way to wiggle into keeping your hair long, right? Which is fine. I personally don't give a shit if your hair is long or not at all. I'm just using that as an example. When you see how these men behave from what they present to you, you could only surmise that they do the same thing to the law, statutes, and commandments, which is always trying to find a way to justify why it is they do what they do. But if there is no Yahweh Shai, right? How do you do that, right? And I'm not saying Sakari, I think they believe in Yahweh Shai. I'm speaking that now generally. If there's no Yahweh Shai, then you actually have to do certain things to reconcile the laws that you break, man. Right? Which puts us in a funny situation, doesn't it? Now, if we were in our own land, right, and lived by our own laws like we have in the past, sacrificing or going to the temple and having one of the high priests sacrifice on your behalf, that that would have been an easy thing, but that's not something you can do now. And then there's a certain way that you even have to sacrifice. You can't just go get a pigeon and say, yeah, this is gonna be my turtle dove. Like, do you ever seen a turtle dove before? I've never even seen a turtle dove before. Or or where you getting a lamb from? You can't go get a lamb and then burn the shit out of it on the top of your stove. That's not a sacrifice, right? There's even particulars to how you have to go about sacrificing. So how I asked the question, how do you go about reconciling the laws that you break? Because I know you break them. You really don't have. It's not that you don't have a choice but to break them. But it's really hard, especially being here in America, to not keep. I mean, to keep the law perfect. So what do you do, right? And again, and when you go into Galatians the second chapter, or I'm going into Galatians the second chapter in just a minute. But Galatians, the whole book of Galatians was on this very topic. Paul was baffled in the Galatians' behavior because all of a sudden they started thinking that by keeping the law they could justify themselves. And he asked me, he said, "What the fuck are y'all talking about, man? What are you talking about? You didn't hear the word based on the law, the keeping of the law. So why all of a sudden do you think by keeping the law that's going to justify you?" Right? This is the exact conversation that Paul was having. So I wanted to go to Galatians the second chapter because I had mentioned it in that last show. I want us to start at 14. I'll start at 14. And then I'll read through it a little bit. I think the point is in 18. This one right here. But I'll read from 14. It's Galatians 2 and 14. It says, "But when I saw that they walk not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel." Now, if you go back to this, you'll understand that Paul had confronted Peter about something that he had been doing, right? Because what Peter was doing was when none of the Jews were around, right? None of the Jews of the faith, when they weren't around, he would be with the Gentiles doing the things that the Gentiles do, hanging out. You know how Jake, we be chilling, hanging out with the Gentiles and what have you, right? But then when the Jews of the faith would come around, then he would act funny and act like, hey, y'all not supposed to be doing that kind of thing. And Paul had confronted him about that, right? So he's further expounding on it here in the 14th verse. He says, "But when I saw that they walked not uprightly according to the truth of the gospel, I said unto Peter before them all, If thou being a Jew livest after the manner of the Gentiles, and not as do the Jews, why compellest thou the Gentiles to live as do the Jews?" You're not even living as a Jew, So Paul asked him this directly, because here's what the consensus was. We can't keep the law perfectly. This is why we're in this predicament, right? This was a not only was Lord Yahweh Shai a reconciliation for the laws that we broke, but it was also a reconciliation in terms of understanding what the predicament was. Damn, here we are, we're trying to keep the law, but in order for all of the nation of Israel to be in its proper place, all of us have to keep the law. In order for all of us to keep the law, we'd have to do it perfectly in order for this thing to work. So we're going to continue to be in this place if we keep trying to justify ourselves by the law, right? This is what they were coming to these conclusions. When you go to Acts the 15th chapter, which I'm going to read a verse from there in just a minute, this is what they were counseling about. Because you had certain Jews of the faith that were saying, they got to be circumcised, this got to happen, they got to do all these things, and they was like, nah, that's not. Matter of fact, let me go to this. This is Acts 15:10. Let me go up in here. It says, now, therefore, let me go up a couple of verses. I'll start at 6. It says, and the apostles and the elders came together for to consider of this matter. And when there had been much disputing, Peter rose up and said unto them, men and brethren, ye know how that a good while ago the Most High made choice among us, that the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the gospel and believe. Right? It says, and the Most High, which knoweth the hearts, bear them witness, giving them the Holy Spirit, even as he did unto us, and put no difference between us and them, purifying their hearts by faith. Right? He didn't purify their hearts by keeping of the law. He purified their hearts by faith. Now, therefore, why tempt ye the Most High, to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples, which neither our fathers nor we were able to bear? Here's the point. But we believe that through the grace of the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, we shall be saved, even as they. That's how we're going to be saved. Not by the keeping of the law, not by the perfecting of the law. And why all of a sudden is that a thing? And here's what I've been thinking about. Like, why all of a sudden is this an issue? But I know why it is. Because if you can find aught with GMS, if you can find aught with the apostles, you can say, I don't have to listen to anything they say. So you embark on these journeys of self-justification, so that you don't have to listen to anything that the apostles are saying. And that's a problem, man. That's a problem. If you don't want to listen to the apostles, then fine. But let's not butcher the scriptures to do it. Right? You don't have to listen to the apostles. That doesn't guarantee your salvation or guarantee your damnation, for that matter. Right? Whether or not you're with or against the apostles. But for a fact, butchering the scriptures could. Right? So don't butcher the scriptures just to try to put yourself in a position above the apostles. That's ridiculous. If you don't say what it is that you have a fundamental difference with, this is why I left from them, and that's all it's going to be. But the doctrine shouldn't change because of that. I mean, unless that's what your difference is. You had a difference in the doctrine, and that's why you departed from us. But I know that's not what it is. I'm not going to get into it. I don't want to talk about people that I really don't know that well. Right? So let's go back. Let's go back to Galatians. Right? Verse 15, it says, we who are Jews by nature and not sinners of the Gentiles, right? Knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by the faith of Yahushua HaMashiach, even we have believed in Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might be justified by the faith of Hamashiach, and not by the works of the law, for by the works of the law shall no flesh be justified. Why? All right? Let's go here. This is Romans 3:18. It says, now we know that what things soever the law saith, it saith to them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and all the world may become guilty before the Lord. Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified in his sight, for by the law is the knowledge of sin. You see? That's why you can't be justified by the law. Because now, just like when you go to Hebrews, right? And in Hebrews, I think around the 5th chapter, it talks about why it was that the Lord chose men to be high priests. It was so that they could understand the temptation that the people were going through. They would have, and so when they sacrificed, they would sacrifice in sincerity, not in the position of I don't do that, but they would sacrifice in a position of sincerity because they themselves committed some of these sins, right? So it was for a level of understanding, which is the same thing, which is the same reason why the Lord made the Lord Yahweh Shai come in the flesh, so that he could understand the things that we were going through in the flesh, man. It says, but now the righteousness of the Most High without the law is manifested, being witnessed by the law and the prophets, right? So there was a new way being built, right? That it wasn't about the justification of the law, but by faith. And really you could argue that the start of that was when you had, or let me not say the start of it. I would argue that, but I'll say it this way to be more careful. The An example of this, right, is when you read First and Second Maccabees, right, where there were a group of us who, because we didn't want to transgress the Sabbath, we allowed the Greeks to destroy us, right? But the Maccabean brothers, they was like, fuck that, you know? And he said, look, he said, we either we gonna worry about this Sabbath and let them eat us up, or we gonna fight back, man. And that is a symbol of faith in the Lord, right? So I wouldn't say that, I would argue that that was, it started in there. I would argue it, but you could give other examples as well. So that's why I want to be more careful in what I say. But that was a great example of that, where there was the law technically was being broken, but they did it because of their faith in the Lord, that the Lord would protect them, and they're fighting against the Greeks, man. And because of that, in that time, which is known as the Hasmonean dynasty, we were able to regain some sovereignty, separate from the other world powers at the time. The Hasmonean dynasty was holding shit down for a period of time, man. Until you had these the wicked high priests, which later became the Pharisees, coming in there and really, fucking up our people so that they can have good positions with the Romans, man. You know, we can't be justified by the law. It can't happen. If that was the case, all we would have, there wouldn't even be a need for the Lord Yahweh Shai, right? Which is why you would say something so bold as um that the Lord Yahweh Shai they didn't exist, or whatever the fuck, what weirdo shit that they're saying. Why would you? Why all of a sudden does the Lord Yahweh Shai not exist? I can't stand a nigga that fucking does that, man. Like, I know this. I feel like this. This is what I feel like. Anybody who doesn't believe, or let me say it this way: anybody who started out believing in God, right? In particular, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, right? And then all of a sudden switches, has allowed someone or something to knock them off their square. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. They've allowed someone or something to come in like a vocab Malone type and say, well, what about this? And then they go, oh shit, yeah, what about that? And in your mind, you doubting these things, and you allow someone to sow doubt in you. This is another part of the show that I did recently. And because you starting to doubt, now you want to change the doctrine so you can circumvent the doubt. But the doubt is only temporary, because you don't just say I don't know. But just because you don't know doesn't mean there's no answer. It just means you don't have the answer. But you allow somebody to knock you off your square, make you stop believing in the Lord Yahweh Shai, you're a piece of garbage, man. If you did some shit like that. The Lord Yahweh Shai is our only hope. He is our only hope. We would not make it if it wasn't for the Lord Yahweh Shai. We wouldn't make it. We go back to Galatians. It says this, verse 17, it says, but if, while we seek to be justified by Yahweh Shai, we ourselves also are found sinners, is therefore Hamashiach the minister of sin? God forbid. Right. So all right, what let me propose something. What if What if when we're looking to be justified by the Lord, we sin? Is the Lord the minister of sin? He's saying no. He said, and here's what he says: For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself the transgressor. I'm the one that's going off, not the Lord Yahweh Shai. Because what he's saying, what is he saying? If I rebuild the things which I destroyed, which is the thing he destroyed? By thinking that he could be justified by the law. Paul was heavy on that. Paul was heavy on that. He was he called himself the Pharisee of the Pharisees, right? He was trained up in the law, right? He went about killing and consenting to the death of people who were following the Lord Yahweh Shai, right? So he destroyed that. He destroyed that and became something else, became something different, became something more profound, which is believing in the Lord by faith. But who better than someone who knew so much about the law to then give hope to those who never were introduced to it? Man, he says, "For I, through the law, am dead to the law, that I might live unto the Most High. I am crucified with Hamashiach, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Hamashiach liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of the Most High, who loved me and gave himself for me. I do not frustrate the grace of the Most High. For if righteousness come by the law, then Hamashiach is dead in vain." Man, it's all right there, man. Which Sakari, they haven't made the jump just yet. But they're gonna say the New Testament is not of God. I'm telling them, they're already saying the Book of Hebrews. They're already trying to be justified by this fringes thing, right? They're gonna say that the New Testament is not of God. They're slowly turning into Old Testament Israelites. They started out really in a bad case with this. You're not supposed to worship Yahweh Shai thing. I don't know where the fuck they they thought they had one with that one. I don't know where you would even put that together. And then when I did a response to that, oh, you only time you see the word worship, when I did a response to that bullshit, now I'm the fat guy from Boston. you first you had a point and you wanted to make your point. Now that I responded to it, now I'm the fat guy from Boston. You know? Which, how did you put that together? You weren't thorough enough, and that's the problem. A lot of you guys just want to be right. Look, you don't want to be with the apostles. You don't want to be in GMS. Okay, fine. But don't think we're not going to say anything to you if you're saying something in the scriptures and we want to correct it, because the people that are with us, right, have to know the right way. All right, man, that's it. Oh, hopefully that was edifying. I want to give all praises, as always, to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem Chachwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honor and salutation to the elect. With that, I say shalom.